right. So yet another amazing session, just full of insights. It's been a great day, day 9 here of the Low Code Marathon, and that brings us to our final session. I love these digital circles. It's always a lively discussion. It's always good to hear from my colleagues that we see on the screen here. Today we're joined by Mike Richmond. He is an account executive here at Creatio, and he's actually going to be leading the discussion. I get to go on cruise control this afternoon. So perfect. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you.
All right. We're also joined by Yuri Yushkov, CEO of Velvetech. Welcome, Yuri. All right. Once again, back by popular demand, here's Davey Damon, founder of Webrix, fresh off of his last session. And also equally backed by popular demand, David Lasher, partner at Keen 360. Hello again, David.
Hello again. Glad to be here.
All right, excellent. So, Mike, I'm gonna give you the reins, and you can take it from here, sir.
I will take it from here, Eric. Thank you. Enjoy your break there. This is going to be this is going to be a fun 40 minutes, guys. It's been a great week. It's been a great low code marathon, and we made it to a Friday. Thanks everyone for sticking with us. We're not letting off the gas here on a Friday. It's been a great marathon, and this live digital circle discussion is going to be right on topic. We've been talking about healthcare, pharma industries, been talking about low code. Now we're going to talk about prioritizations. Prioritizations 2021. What are these initiatives that we should prioritize within these industries? From disruption to digital transformation, vice versa. We've got a great panel of speakers here to talk about these prioritizations in these industries today. Davey, Yuri, thanks for joining us here this afternoon.
Thank you, Mike.
So I guess we'll get right into the discussion, guys. These are hot topics, and I'm excited to hear your tidbits of info. I'll chime in, with my opinions as well. Let's just start off talking about life sciences first of all. So life science companies, we're talking pharmaceutical, biotech, medical device manufacturers. So where should we start here? What do you guys see as their top need, top priority of which low code could help these organizations? Who would like to start?
I don't mind.
I think we're going to get this.
What do you think? What's a top priority, David?
And you can hear me, right? Yes.
Yeah, loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So this is a wide net we're casting, right? So I'm gonna pick one of the lakes that is available to us, and it's in life sciences and commercial operations. What I'm very attuned to is from where we operate in the marketplace is companies that are emerging from their clinical trials, as I was talking about in the prior session, and they're launching their commercial teams, right? Taking their meds, taking their molecules to market. So that people can get better by consuming them, right? So, what's the challenge? The challenge has been that the legacy platforms in place, while maybe being suitable for large established big pharma, right, have been ill-suited to the needs of companies that are launching small teams, starting small, but are rapidly going to expand, right? In 12 to 24 months. They're going to go through, in that 12 to 24, 36 months, they're going to go through whole different identities internally as to what their priorities are, right? And how their teams are constituted. And they're still at the point where they're not realizing revenue. They're consuming the capital, the investment funds that they got. And so cost does matter, right? I would argue big pharma isn't always as cost sensitive. There's rationality to that, right? I'm not saying otherwise, but they've got the revenue stream. So what's the opportunity? What's the priority? I think that if you're one of these life sciences companies and you've gotten through phase 2 FDA approvals for a new drug or your first drug, and compound, whatever it might be. I think that the priority is to open the aperture beyond the brands and platforms that you already know, right, and are comfortable with, frankly, right, and consider something that might serve you appropriately, both in the immediate term and in the longer term, as you go through this process of launching your team, taking your new medications, drugs into the market. That's where I think low code can be extremely valuable to an organization. So that's the clinical to commercial transition is my answer.
Clinical to commercial transition. Cool. So Davey, I see you next on my screen here. What are your thoughts about prioritization for low code within the life science industry?
Well, if we look, obviously, David and Yuri and I are from different parts of the world, which gives a good view. If we look at the Netherlands, we've seen that the transition of development in the health industry in general has been, well, moving very slowly. And due to COVID, everybody has to get up and running all of a sudden. And that's why you see where low code is really important for other companies, and low code, especially also in this region, really gets up and kicking, because a lot of structures they already have in place are built for a certain purpose. It's kind of, you're working in the box. And what you see with low code is it's very easy to get small pieces. And that's also how companies start. So they have a system in place and they start using low code for specific functionalities which we want to connect to that environment they already have. So I think it's very important for the IT landscape to go whole low code, because the flexibility you have. It's, for example, what we see in the Netherlands is they're changing everything from kind of on-premise to online. And all the rules keep changing, not just because of COVID, but also with the GDPR and all the other rules and regulations you keep having and changing. Is that low code makes it very easier to change and be flexible and to go with those changes. One of the things we see in this region is we're working with e-health monitoring now. So a lot of sensors, we call it e-ICU. So people can stay at home and still get all their vitals monitored. We see e-consulting by doctors. Now, since this year, I can actually see my own patient file online. I can make an appointment with my doctor online. You don't have to call and get 10 minutes to listen to all the menu options, and then she's on a break and you have to go back in half an hour. You can easily go online, create your own appointments. And those are things that are developing right now. And I think the biggest priority is to consolidate that information, because the hospital has a piece of information for me, my GP has a piece of information, the pharmacy. And I think it's very important that all that data needs to be connected so everybody knows how to help you a lot quicker. Because now, you have to sign 20 forms, put a stamp on it. I mean, those still exist, stamp on it, go to the letterbox and give somebody permission to see your information or to exchange your information. And that's all kinds of things that you can easily handle online now.
Nice. Consolidation of data. So great. I appreciate that input there. So we're on a roll here. Yuri, as far as prioritizations from your opinion within the life sciences industry, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks. And I'd like to build on David and Davy's inputs, especially in connecting the activities or data inputs or devices. It's very important to have a robust platform. We are living in a connected world, and it's a given. We see lots and lots of developments happening in the medical device, remote patient monitoring, and how this merges from the data standpoint with patient input and provider input and the pharmaceutical. From the care coordination perspective, it's very important to have the platform that can work efficiently from the process orchestration standpoint with the IoT, Internet of Things, data flows that's coming in, acquired from whatever the source is. It can be a patient, it can be a provider, can be facility where the service is provided. It all comes to a data lake, and then how do we operate based on this data? Actually, I can highlight the two major investment areas that both the life sciences and pharmaceutical and medical device and care systems are investing is the data processing, analytics, data. Everything is run on data. But then when we have the right data, when we see the right data points and we have everything on our dashboard, how do we apply this to operations? Obviously, we use the processes. We need to orchestrate the activities around those data points. And we need to have proper follow-up protocols depending on triggering events, some outliers that we see from the data and stuff like that. So when you look at the IT framework and infrastructure that supports these industries, the data architecture and the data governance goes side by side with processes, activities, management, and flow of information from one department to another. And also is connected to how the companies are operating. With the challenges they have in the personnel and talent acquisition, obviously it's important to have the right tool for teaming and for building the efficient team that delivers the service, that works with the customer and provides this support for the company's business model. So when you have the right activities managed on the low-code platform, you truly become the agile organization as far as how your team is managed and responds to the challenges. And I think it's very important to have the right low-code platform at your disposal to achieve those objectives.
Exactly. Fantastic. So we've got some great opinions of prioritization. So this, I think, is a great time to launch a poll. So let's do that. So for our first poll, it's as simple as we've been discussing. What is your top IT related priority this year? So we can improve. Well, you see the choices there, everyone. Why don't you participate in a poll, and then we'll read the results in a little bit. It can be improve clinical and lab systems. It can be realized value from CRM systems, support mobile and remote caregivers, archive interoperability across systems, and obtain insight from patient data. What may the top priority be? We'll soon see. And just real quick, guys, I have an actual real life example. So I, as an account executive here at Creatio, work with pharmaceutical organizations, companies, all the time. So one of our newer customers, they simply wanted to increase their market share. They wanted to move faster, accelerate, and make more sales. They just wanted to improve their current processes. Before their low-code platform, they had to look into about 4 different systems. They had several data lakes. Every time someone would place a call to request an order form and make an order, they had to go in one system to look at a certain amount of data, look in another system for a credit check, look in another system for their product book. So they had multiple systems. It took too long just to facilitate an order and make recommendations for products and services. So with the low-code platform now, we were able to easily integrate with other systems and pull all these other data lakes into one single pane of glass. So now when their customers call, they have all the information that they used to have to go into different systems to make intelligent decisions and be able to handle those orders a lot more quickly. And on top of that, in the low-code platform, it also makes recommendations based on that purchaser's previous history. It says, if you've purchased this, then you should also be purchasing that. So now with the low-code platform, that specific pharmacy company is able to handle orders more quickly. They're generating higher revenue, and they can increase their market or their revenue by recommending relevant products that they were not able to do so before. So that's just one real-life example. And let's see here. Looks like we've got some poll results already. And there's a winner. So I'm looking at my chat over here. Realizing the value from CRM systems is leading the pack, you guys. What a great answer. That's what we're talking about. Realizing the value from CRM system is a top IT priority this year. That's great, Mike, to see. Yeah.
Mike, I mean, from my experience, the way I interpret that is that there's a lot of people out there seeing the same thing. in the marketplace that my business partner Keen 360 and I are seeing, which is realizing that putting money into a system and getting value out of it are two entirely different things, right? Sinking the money in is easy. Getting the value, extracting the value from it, not so much. And what I think is that there remains a lot of disappointment industry-wide,
right,
with the value being extracted, realized from the systems that are already in place. So point is, I'm gratified to hear that it seems like our audiences are seeing the same things that we're seeing.
So just to add one step to that, I love that answer too, realizing the value. On a daily basis here at Creatio, I talk about the velocity to that value. Organizations that I speak with, working with other platforms, recognize that it may take 6 months, 8 months, 10 months to recognize value from an initial deployment of a CRM, maybe over a year. With our low-code platform, people are often very excited to realize that they will recognize this value within a lot shorter of a duration, 3-4 months. So that's an exciting answer, guys. So let's go to the next question now. We're switching gears here. We were talking about life sciences, pharmaceuticals, biotech. Let's talk now about healthcare associated with providers, payers in the private, public sectors. I wonder if there's a different opportunity there for low code, different prioritization. What do we think within providers, payers, and private public sectors? There is an opportunity also for low code. Let's start with Yuri. Yuri, what do you think about those sectors and low code? Are there any differences in opportunities or priorities?
Yeah, thanks. Providers are facing with patients, and patients in today's consumer world are all going digital. So it's very important for any provider or health system, multi-specialty clinic or health center to be fully equipped with the omni-channel platform that is powered by the low code and connects them, the providers and the caregivers and other licensed healthcare providers, to the patients being consumers. Patient may reach out to the provider to schedule an appointment, to follow up on the previous visit, to check on their test results and everything like that through a number of different ways. And to have the platform that can open up the dialogue through chat, through instant messaging on the favorite mobile application, the smartphone device of the consumer, that is crucial. That is crucial to give the visibility and to facilitate access to care in right time with the right provider and also for the right cost. And in addition to that, I see a lot of trend happening in the provider setting for telemedicine. And telemedicine is part of chronic care coordination and other health programs. So when we look at those solutions that assist the providers to stay on top of the patient condition and to help them go through their treatment plan without falling off, having the correct and efficient follow-up system between the provider and the caregiver on the digital platform is indispensable. It's really something that our customers are coming us for and asking to the best in-class solution, and it's very important.
So the very topical response there, Yuri. And so when we talk about telemedicine, omni-channel communications, I agree that's a top priority. In fact, David Lasher and I are working with a large healthcare organization right now, and they are trying to improve their communications, omni-channel communications associated with telehealth, and because they're having a big challenge also in rural communities, right? We take for granted that we can, shoot an email or pick up the phone. There are a lot of places in this country that have a hard time communicating in general. And when healthcare facilities have to follow up with these patients when they're challenged in communications in the first place, that even heightens that challenge. So I agree. That's a great response there. So Davey, what are your thoughts there? Anything to add to that as far as opportunities for low code in these other providers and other sections?
Sure, Mike. I think I have an example with a customer of ours. It's called Humanitas. They're a national care service provider, not necessarily medical care, but mostly like ambulance care. So they have people with mental issues, elderly who need help, all things like that. They obviously had all these systems in place already. It's a big organization, thousands of people working there. It's national. Last year, August, they came to us. They said, "Hey, we need for a small project, just 1 year, for one of the governmental rules. We need a project. We need help to build something because our systems aren't flexible enough to create something, and we need it next week." So obviously, for the project, we created in 1 week. We created exactly what they needed. And the thing is, by seeing that we can easily create something and also flexible, because obviously changes will happen, changes need to be made, and because the speed of the changes we can make and keep them up to date with the data and all the dashboards. So a project that was supposed to be just for a few users and 1 year, in the meanwhile, we're not even 1 year further, and we connected 8 different departments already. So slowly but surely, the systems will be replaced by low code.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Accelerating the value. So that's great to know. I love these real life examples. David, I shared the one that were about rural communication. Any other examples of low code opportunities?
Well, so yeah, I think giving the examples is great. So Yuri, I'm going to talk about one that you and I did almost about a year ago. And it was remarkable to me what we were able to do, because in my background, circa 2010, right? I was I was at IBM in the consulting organization. I was the junior executive or partner helping. We had the contract to run General Motors North American call center for dealers and customers. I think the call volumes were 120 million a year or something. It was crazy. And what was crazier, what was mind-boggling, was the complexity, costs, unreliability of the whole communications background, which really was only it was really just voice only, right? Fast forward, like a smaller scale, but fast forward to this past summer, Yuri and I did a collaboration to demonstrate to a lab that was involved in COVID, and organizations trying to set up testing for their employees and safe perimeters, right? Had to be done very, very quickly for all the obvious reasons. And schools bringing back their students, universities, right? They were working last summer to be able to do so, right? And so, everybody understands this kind of science intuitively, but what about patients that are going to have questions? What about orchestrating those exceptions when a swab is supposed to be delivered on a certain day but isn't, right? I was supposed to get the results. I got some results, and now I'm terrified because it was a positive, right? The service model, right? Putting together a capable service model to be able to take those questions from any channel, get them to the people that have the answers, right? Monitor which responses are lagging and need attention and which don't. Yuri, you and your team, well, me and my team, we put up the backbone in literally 4 or 5 calendar days. It was there, the technical background. Right? It was voice. And for the audience, what do we mean by omnichannel? Right? We're talking like
clarify,
IT nerds, right? It's voice, it's text, it's email, it's it's a page on your website that everybody already knows, right? Yuri, it's voice to text, right? It's integrating with, I know, Dave, in Europe, you guys like WhatsApp. Over here, we Slack, right? Right. Bringing all these channels together to one place, and then receiving into a queue, receiving the queue, triaging the queue, routing to the right people, making sure that none of the responses that need to be there. We did, Yuri, 4 or 5 days, right? We had the platform up.
All came up with the categorization of different types of cases. Those cases are routed to agents. The initiation of the cases from different channels and the response is going back to the patient to the proper channel where they're most responsive during that time of the day. So
Awesome.
these are the things and complexities that the low code can handle for us when we combine the artificial intelligence with the low code capability to plan and to design the proper process and workflow, and then connect that to the channels that are blended together. That's what the right platform can do for the organization. In the record time. And
hey, Mike.
In the record time. That's important to highlight.
Indeed.
Here's the big point to me, right?
Another one.
Well, it's a point anyway. But here's see what if the CIO is trying to push these low code, CIOs trying to push this up the ladder, this idea, right? Okay, CIO. No, but I've worn that hat, played that role a couple different times. I'm here to tell you, nobody really wants to listen to the CIO, right? Tough job. The message here is really, I submit, for the board of directors, right? It's for the private equity firm that's running it. It's for the legislator in the assembly who doesn't know what the executive branch really could be doing that's different today, right? The paradigm shift with low code is that where the IT organization had to say no, or $1 million, $1 million, $1 million in the past, it can now be yes, and the budget required can be fractions, and the timelines can again be weeks and months, sometimes days, instead of those years, right? And I think what needs to be happening is that the people who run organizations that are responsible for strategy, mission, investment, they need to be asking their teams, what are we doing with low code? And because I'm excited what can be done. I just don't think the question's being asked often enough.
So you're preaching to the choir here. Good point there. So let's move on to another question, somewhat related. I mean, we've been talking about how low code gives opportunity to accelerate and be nimble. Times are changing. Times are always changing. So recently, from the pandemic, we've seen how health-related organizations handle massive changes in short time frames. Right, some easier than others. So Davey, let's start with you. When we talk about making changes, massive changes in short time frames, this is kind of a softball question, but how can a low-code platform helps in such situations when we have to be nimble, when we have to make changes quickly? Davey, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's just like I just mentioned with the case of Humanitas, existing systems, making changes. If customers ask me like, how quickly can you do this? It's more like a question, can you keep up? I mean, customers need to provide information. You need to wait for them. And a lot of cases in the project, most of the time you spend waiting for your customer to catch up, to give you the right information, to test everything. So it's very quick. Actually, before the low-code marathon today started, I had a demo for prospect, and also in a medical service field. And they kind of just, they need a cockpit. So they have an IT landscape with different systems. So as you said before, every user has to have 4 screens open to get all the consolidated data. So they wanted a cockpit. And the question is like, okay, what can Creatio do to help? And it's pretty easy, in less than an hour, you can show them exactly how they can do that. And also, like, the meeting was for both technical people. I think there were 3-4 developers and application managers and just a few users. And I was showing them like how to change screens, how to build processes, your workflow, but also the marketing flows, all the campaigns. And then they asked me like, okay, but what can the user do? He said, this is everything the user can do. But you as an application manager, if you want, you can do this. But as a normal user, you can do this. And a lot of our customers do this themselves. It takes a minimal amount of training and time to get a user up and running in Creatio. It's that easy. I think, low code is fast and adaptive, which also means that developers who already have a landscape like boxed in can use low-code to test new functionalities, or just, as an extension to your own environment, and then hopefully slowly take over that whole environment to use low-code.
All good points. Yeah, those of us that are used to low code and Creatio, maybe we take for granted the speed and simplicity of making changes, but it is worth restating. Those people who are not currently on a low code platform are very used to a very monotonous, lengthy process when it comes to making changes in the behavior of your platform. So it is worth talking more about the speed and simplicity of how low code enables organizations to accelerate. Yuri, to continue this brainstorm, any other thoughts, comments about how low code can help in situations when we need to pivot faster than normal? Additional thoughts, Yuri?
Yeah, sure. Let's imagine a department, say operations, and they come to a daily meeting and say, guys, we have this issue, this problem. How can we mitigate that? How we can solve this? What do we have? So when they discover the issue and then say, okay, let's talk to our IT for a solution, and the response from IT, okay, we can find a vendor for this, we can onboard that vendor to the process, or we can customize our existing application and solution. Yeah, it's going to take us a few weeks or maybe a few months before we roll it out. That would be the typical response that the business would hear. Then what other options are available? What if we have a low-code platform at our disposal? What if we can say, okay, we understand the problem, let's roll out a pilot that will solve this problem and see if we are right on the time and on the objective to deliver a solution. So in 2-3 days, you have this in place, and then you can scale from there, because the low-code platform is truly designed for continuing that transformation moving forward. And do we need to involve programmers or hardcore developers to make it happen? No, it's a low code. We can have our consultants, or we can have our internal business analysts, or even IT guys. They can adapt and can learn the system very easily and fast enough so that we can scale this pilot into the fully operational platform for this particular problem. And then what you do, you repeat. You have a new problem, you execute the same strategy as far as how you can mitigate that using low code.
Absolutely. Gosh, you guys, we've got great examples, great ideas. I'm sure the audience is excited to hear more, but we have a poll. We have another poll. Let's do another poll. Very relevant topic here. Where do you think low code might help the most? The most. So all the above is not a selection. You got to pick. Get the right tools to the right teams. Another option, support for mobile and remote professionals. Deliver insight to patients and or operations. Complement or integrate in-place systems. Collaborate across teams and organizations. There's 5 great options here. I'm very curious to see which one comes out on top. So where do you guys think the low code may help the most? So while we gather those results, let's bounce over to another question. Let's talk about analytics for a few minutes here. We love to talk about reporting, right? We're always managing, gathering, interpreting data. So organizations in life sciences, healthcare, they typically have invested considerable amount of sums in specialized platforms and services to gather their analytics and gather their insights. So those platforms, they're not going to go away, right? They've invested a lot in them. So how might a low-code platform interoperate and augment what they're already doing, what they already have in place? So for analytical purposes, reporting, dashboard, how does a low-code platform complement their existing systems for analytics? David, you want to take the first crack at that one?
Yeah, sure. And then I'm gonna go back to something that Davey said too, because I think it's important in the last discussion.
Thanks.
But I think there's some obvious answers on the analytics about interoperability. REST API, you can integrate, you can collect your data, but here's what I want to emphasize. You can't have actionable, reliable insight if you don't have quality data, right? And so what I think is really interesting about rolling out low-code solutions to teams and ones that have application suites that come with them, like Creatio does, is that all of a sudden you can start retiring other systems. You can consolidate quickly for all the reasons we've been talking about. And here's something that we haven't talked about with Creatio. It does have the tools for security, for finding duplicates, managing duplicates, supporting your data stewardship team if you're a little higher scale of an organization. And what it does is your transactional system is all of a sudden in harmony with your analytical systems platform, and so they can play very nicely together. There's no barriers. It's really getting the two teams together, making sure you understand the data, and then feeding your analytical platforms data that's good. And the other thing is taking from those analytical platforms, and I like the metaphor of the cockpit that Davey was using, pulling from the analytical systems back into the transactional systems, so that your teams out in the field have the right information at the right time, and can use it that way. Before I close this comment, what I did want to mention about, really emphasize, is something that Davey said that would be easy to underappreciate, and it's that, because we're finding the same thing at Keen 360. It's that when organizations like mine are helping another organization implement Creatio, get it established, with low code, we're able to implement the technology faster than the business side is able to move, right? We are no longer the blocker for the timelines. And you can think of, and that the timelines, time to value, we all like that, right? But what happens is this frees up time to be spent on what is actually most important, which is organizational process design, right? Design questions become the topic, what we're investing, and then training too, right? So that point about So here's a metric for a standard footprint of implementing a Creatio solution. We at Keen 360 are finding that for an enterprise caliber sales and service implementation, it takes us maybe, and your data conversions and systems integration, your mileage may vary, right? But for the core platform, 4 weeks of effort, right? But you can't do it in just 4 weeks because our clients can't move that fast, right? So it ends up being 4 weeks of effort over 6 to 8 weeks time, and it works very nicely. So back to you, Mike.
It's always worth restating the velocity acceleration that low code delivers, even if it's faster than others. So going back to analytics, you brought up a good point. Before I toss it over to Yuri and Davey, you brought up clean data. Let me mention just in 1 minute a quick agreement with you, because I work with a lot of organizations that in the transition to a low code platform have to deal with that dirty data. How can you make strategic decisions based on an analytical dashboard that's not accurate, right? The reason why that happens a lot in our world, my world, is a lot of people are dealing with what I call Frankenstein CRMs. Essentially, it's hard to make changes. Perhaps the people that made the initial configuration are no longer with them. And so they just keep adding fields, right? People just keep adding fields, required fields, not required fields. It's a Frankenstein CRM to where the data, entry people are just trying to get to the next field, just trying to get. So in a CRM that may not be configured ideally, it kind of creates an environment of dirty data. So with a low code platform, being able to gather that data as intuitively, naturally, and simply as possible lends itself to accurate information in analytics. So having a user, the form pages that are simple to use is crucial. So I just wanted to throw that out there. We deal with a lot of Frankenstein CRMs, and we build a utopia scenario so the data can be trusted. So Davey, I'll give you the last comment before I come to Davey. Yuri, what are your thoughts about analytics within a low code environment? Thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think that having the right data, trusted data, is the core essential thing for the infrastructure. Once you have that, how you can turn it into the actual process for executing tasks. This is where the low code comes in play, where it's managing your activities and tasks and statuses and branching logic and all these things for you to execute those actionable insights that you've discovered through your data. I'll give you the practical example. So, for example, you're a health system, and you discovered through your patient analysis that this cohort of patients have certain risks because of their medication they're taking, their bio and vitals that have been collected through remote monitoring. Then what do you do about that? If your strategy is to put them on certain preventive care and have a treatment plan that has a digital component for managing their chronic care conditions, then it's essential to run this on a power of low code where you can create certain tasks at the right time. You can orchestrate the outreach to those patients. You can invite them for visits, and you can stay on top of that. So basically, your patients, depending on their situation, are going to stick to the plan that you've designed for them. And you can bring the education in. You can send some important materials to those patients to get them prepared and informed. Keeping them informed, it makes easier to have them stick to the plan. And when you have your caregivers and medical specialists who provide and deliver the care, you do this alignment between their availability and the patient availability to make those meaningful interactions that are prescribed by chronic care coordination plan and whatnot. So this is how you execute on those data points using low code. And otherwise, what you can do, you can stick to your spreadsheet and you can pick up a phone or send email manual, and it's the old age. Nobody would do this anymore.
That's right. Welcome to the 21st century. Good insight there. And I'm about to announce the poll, and we're at the top of the hour. But Davey, please, in the last minute here, any final thoughts from you as far as low-code platforms wrapping themselves around other platforms for analytical purposes?
Well, analytical purposes. So David and Euro mentioned data are very important, right? So what I want to mention is that if we look at the user point of view, the data should be clean. No user should be handling wrong data, etc., etc. What I think is very important to mention for local Creatio in this case is that every user for himself can easily create personal dashboards as well. I think that's very important to know as well. You can easily create filters, and if you can create a filter, which is very easy, you can create your own dashboard, see your own personal information. Because nobody cares what the CIO thinks, David. So I want to create my own personal dashboards, my own personal information.
And David, I just don't want us to leave the CIOs having heart attacks out there. Okay, so I want to emphasize that there are certain steps and disciplines that can't be skipped, and certain skills that can't be neglected. Because Mike, Mike R.
For a whole other hour on that topic.
Well, I like your
analogy. Wrap it up.
I like your analogy. I think we have a responsibility here, though, right?
Please, 30 seconds.
Frankenstein. You can build a Frankenstein's monster with low code. You can, okay? And if you just unleash folks to build whatever they want, right? You might end up in a worse place, a worse monster than otherwise. So you can't skip information architecture. You can't skip design. And I submit that you should not be working around your IT folks and professionals. I think that the beauty of low code is that they can work together more effectively and efficiently than ever before. Okay.
Speaking of working together, thank you. We never want to exclude IT. So again, another great point. You guys, these calls are never long enough. Do we have another hour? I don't think so. But great topics from everyone. Let me wrap it up here with the poll. We asked, where do you think low code might help the most? I thought all the above was my answer, but there is a definitive answer. and it is cooperate across team and business. Getting everyone on the same page. We haven't talked a whole lot about collaboration, right? People are sending emails in all different directions. Who's copied on this? What context was that in? Getting everybody on the same page at the same time in real time is very exciting. Great result to that poll. And as mentioned, guys, a great discussion. We're out of time, but we'll continue this low code marathon. Is that Eric? Are you back?
That's
are we
me.
out of time?
I'm back.
So
Great
thanks
discussion, guys.
Yeah, thanks everyone. David, Davey, Yuri, thanks for participating in this. We love talking about low code, especially with you guys, but our time is up. So Eric, I'll pass it back to you.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, guys. Great lively discussion. I love it. It always brings up good points. So I'm sure we'll see you again. We got another day. I'm sure there's other sessions that we'll be seeing you guys on.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.